Alright, Richard, here's the second part of your proof of life. So as you can tell, everything's been fully loaded up into the ports back there. And then these are the cartridges we're going to test the cartridge port with. Normally I just test with this standard Atari cartridge, but this is the ultimate cartridge that you ordered. This is also the first one of the new cart shell design, and I think they turned out really nicely. They're just nice and sleek, and they look even better than the ones that did before. I've got this connected up to a monitor that will do composite and S-video. I've got it connected up to an HDMI television for the DVI, and then a stock Atari SC1224 for RGB. Alright, so without further ado, I'm just going to turn it on by pressing this button right here. You're going to see the splash screen there, and there, and there. Okay. Now, we're going to focus here on this screen so I have a little bit more control over it. Alright, first things first. We are going to go into the configuration screen, and we do that by pressing F12. And so F12 gets us or help and reset, but F12 is already programmed into the software for the keyboards in order for it to work. You can navigate these screens by the arrow keys and then change the options by pressing enter. So the first thing we're going to change is system RAM. You can do a stock 64K, the 320K Rambo, 576 Copy Shop, or the default, which is a 1 meg Rambo. Some software works better with some upgrade configurations, but the 1 meg Rambo is pretty standard. The default here is the XL-OS, and that is your stock Atari 800XL, 1200, not 1200XL, but 800XL OS. Works very nicely, stable, and it's the most compatible with everything else. If you wanted to, you could change it to an 800 OS-B. It's PAL. That doesn't mean you can run all PAL software, but you might be able to get away and sneak one or two programs in that maybe just need a translator. Or an 800 program that needs a translator. You can also change this to a command line OS or the stock XEGS OS for different games and stuff. I leave it at XL. And the basic slot, you can do Atari Basic C, Altera Basic, Atari Assembler Editor, or SimAssembler. I leave it set for Basic C. Basic is going to be on unless you press Option key at boot, or you can just permanently disable it. It's up to you. Spartados is enabled by default, unless you want to turn it off. There's a graphical OS that FJC has made that I think is just awesome. In order to enable that, you just press Enter and enable it. You'll notice that it disables Spartados X. Now I'm going to press B to boot. It's going to boot the machine again, and it's going to boot it into the graphical OS. Now, I'm just going to use a standard wireless mouse behind the screen here, and I told you that we'd mention this. So this right here controls where the mouse is. That's for port 1. Press it again twice, and it turns red for port 2. I have it set for port 2 just because it's easy to see, and going to make sure that the mouse is connected here. Okay, and then it doesn't have full functionality here, but it does have some things. This profile gives you what's going on with applications and memories and things like that. It's pretty cool. He's done a little work on it because I can tell that these hard drive and floppies and things, they were not there before. and he is working to make sure that they are still moving along. Again, it's not quite ready for prime time, but your machine is set to use it, and so you don't have to do anything else. And it's also a great way to show off mouse function. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to press F12 again. I'm going to enable SpartaDOS, which disables the graphic OS. Boot to the loader. Now some people don't want to boot to SpartaDOS. They want to boot to whatever they've got stored on their compact flash. You can do that just by enabling it here. Obviously it disables SpartaDOS. I like to have SpartaDOS enabled. If I want to go into the loader, there's ways to do that, and I'll show you that again. Your system date you can set here. It's a little laborious to do it that way. You can also set it at the command line on SpartaDOS X. I'll show you that in a moment. You don't have VBXE installed, so that line doesn't worry you. Stereo Pokey is enabled. If for some reason some software doesn't like it, just disable it. Or you can change the Pokey IRQ. Some things work with X6340. You might want to, and that's the default, or you can have it set to X740. GTI V-Gate is a function of this machine. It's to minimize overscan on high density monitors like the HDMI or the DVI, which, by the way, looks sweet. Alright. Your PBI BIOS is what allows you to access the hard drive. It's got to be enabled. The notice is that thing that pops up when we boot up that tells us what version it is. Hard drive is obviously enabled. I've got it set to default at D5, mainly because most people don't have more than 4 physical floppy drives. Certainly you can have an SIOT SD or something like that, which would give you all of the floppy drives, but generally we fiddle about with D1 through D4. So D5, I've got it set for the hard drive. D1 redirect should be set so that you can boot from various drives. Config this, the computer's going to look for it on D5. You can right lock the hard drive to prevent anything from getting erased. If you had a dual drive, a dual CF drive, then this would be enabled, but you don't, so it's disabled. High-speed I/O is set currently for floppy drives and the SIO2 PC. You can change the I/O sound. You can do just no sound, or just when it accesses the SIO, just when it accesses SIOs and ATRs, or every time it accesses some kind of drive device. This is the information about your system. 2.16 is literally the newest version possible. It was just released on the 12th, and it looks pretty bug-free. Will probably be the release version. If it's not, you can upgrade it, but I think you're pretty much set on the most recent release version possible. Help gets you access to the BIOS menu where we are now, so it's help and a reset. Cold boot is disabled. You can just enable that if you want every time you boot to be a cold boot. The BIOS logo, it's that splash screen that we saw at boot up. You can change it so that you see it every time you boot. You never see it at all, or you only see it at power on. I like to see it every time we boot. All of the things in the XEL can be changed, like SDX, the GOS, the firmware. You could change firmware on different devices that you connect to the XEL. If you want to make sure that nothing gets disabled or harmed, you can disable ROM flashing or leave it enabled. You can turn sound completely off in the BIOS menu or enable it. I leave it on as default, and a screensaver if you let it sit there for a while. This is for Rapidus, which you don't have installed. All of these keys here will function in any screen. So for example, we haven't made any changes, but it's set to every way that I want it to be. So I'm going to just pick a random screen here, and I'm going to press save profile 1, and then I'm going to press L for loader. Loader gets me into the loader for the compact flash. So, in a compact flash, you can subdivide it into many partitions. Some of the ways you can do this is set up a FAT32 partition, which is accessible by your computer, whether it's a Mac or Windows machine, and that allows you to easily get files over to your XEL. APT is the Atari partition table. You set that up through FDisk, or you can set it up as a FAT16. Now, why would you want to do FAT16 versus FAT32? So FAT32 is only accessible through the BIOS loader, through this loader on the Ultimate One Mag, the XEL. If you wanted to have access to that file through the command line on SDX, you could set up a FAT16. You could access it through the loader as well, but you could also access it inside of the Atari DOS or whatever you want to have set. So if you want to load things from here, you can load any COM file, any XEX file, any ATR. While we're here, I want to show you a function of the multi-disk software loading machine. So this Possum Interis is just a nice little demo, but it's 2 disks. And since you've got them all in files, how do you swap disks on top of a file? So what you do is you have a map file, which is just a text file telling the computer where to find the files, and then you load that. So I highlighted it, now I'm pressing enter. It's going to load up that first disk. I'm going to press enter for start. And you can see it's loading up that drive, right? It's doing it rather quickly. So now it wants the second disk. How do you tell it that second disk is there? That's where this comes in right here. So I'm going to press this button right here. You'll see that the LED lights. And then I'm going to go back to the keyboard and I'm going to press enter. You see it's loading that second disk. The LED went out and it's loading that second disk. So it's a nice little demo, but its main function is to show you how to load multi-disc. So like if you want to play 7 Cities of Gold, you could load that up because it's a multi-disc load, and that's how you would do that. Okay. That's it for here. Let's go to the different function. Oh no, let's go to the loader again. I'm going to press L. And what I'm going to do, as you noticed, it's got it loaded in D1 and D2. What I'm going to do is I'm going to power cycle the machine so that those are unloaded. There are other ways to unload it, but that was the most time efficient. Okay, I'm going to go back to F12 and hit the loader. And then the reason I'm coming here is because I want to change this to joy test. Okay, so this is just a simple little joystick tester, and I've got just a standard Atari joystick attached to the machine. I've got this attached in Joyport 1. Okay, and then I'm going to fire. Okay, I didn't say it wasn't annoying. And then I'm going to put this in Joyport 2, and I'm going to press fire. and then to the cardinal directions. So now we know that the joystick works. Again, easy way to load files. I want to show you one thing. So I said that you could load files from not only the loader, but if it's a FAT16 partition and it's set up correctly, and you've loaded the FAT FS loader, if you see it on that second line there, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to drive N. Now, you can hear it accessing the hard drive, because what it's doing is it's trying to log that drive, and it's looking for that drive, and it's reading it, and it's reading it through the FAT16, and you can see the compact flash access light is blinking. V-Gate, you saw that was enabled. Stereo's enabled. This is SiO2PC for reading. You heard the noise stop. And then we're going to do a directory. And the volume is FAT A, just like it was when we put it in the loader. And you see some of the same files that you saw there. Now, you can't load 8 TRs from the command line unless you've got it set up to do so, but you can load XEX files or COM files or anything that you want stored in there. So it's an easy way to move files from the internet to your computer to your Atari. And let's see. So what we've got done so far is we've seen that the joy ports work. We've done testing on the compact flash. The next thing I want to show you is I want to change the input on this TV. So we're going to move it off of the Atari, and we're going to move it to my Mac Mini that I've got set up here. And the reason for that is that I want to show you how we are operating for the SiO2PC. So what we've got here is, as you may notice right there, you see the USB Mini connected to a USB cable, and then that's just connected to this USB hub, which is on a Mac Mini. And I've got what's called Respect, RESPEQT, and it's an Atari serial peripheral emulator. And so there is a Mac version and a Windows version. I run the Windows version under emulation on my Mac just because the Windows version gets updated fairly often. And so what I'm going to show you is when you get it back to your computer, just go to Options, Tools, and then set it to the correct port. In this case, it is port 10. And save. And then you'll see it says emulation. Now, see I've got these two drives set here for drive 3 and drive 4. There's a reason for that. If I go and I change to C, which is drive 3, I could easily do D3 and do a directory. That gives me the directory for D3. It's also got some access notes here. Now, let's test the stock SIO. For the stock SIO, I've got this SIO2CD, 2SD, sorry, and then I've got the Rapidus upgrade ATR set for that. So, I'm going to go to A. Again, could do D1 and do a directory. Okay, I think I've got a B installed. No, I do not. So let's go back to A. Okay, but we know a couple of things. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to do the directory again. and I want you to look at the SIO interface lights. Okay. And then if I go to D3 again, and then do F3, see? So far we have tested obviously the keyboard, the mouse, S-Video is tested. Let's look at composite. Composite, you're going to notice, is not as sharp. Okay. We've tested the DVI, we've tested the RGB. I think one of the things that's really nice about RGB, now you don't have VBXE installed, but if you've noticed, I'll show you this. So I've got multiple configuration files here. One is a no VBXE and one is a yes VBXE. Let's edit no VBXE.config. And this is the setup, but if you notice right here, this RC Graphic 8 system, so what it does is it sets a sort of simulated 80 column screen by going through Graphics 8. And the reason why I want to show you that is because there's this really cool program called SpartaDOS Commander. Which looks pretty decent in S-Video. It's not really readable in composite, but in RGB it's just really nicely done. And of course, let's not forget DVI. Oops. It's just gorgeous, just gorgeous. But that's pretty good. Oh, okay, maybe not composite, but this video is. Okay, and so this allows you to do a lot of things that you would do at the command line, except now you can do it graphically. Alright, so we've tested just about everything except for the cartridge port. So what I want to do is I'm just going to power this off, and I'm going to standard Atari cartridge, and the label goes to the front. It says right there. And if you notice, there's, well, I can't see it. I can. There's some nibs in there to push these things open. Jiggle it just a little bit, press down like this, power on, voila. Okay. Okay, now I'm going to start it. Start is F5. Make sure I put this in port 1. Oh, I died. But you get the point. Okay, now I'm going to power this off. and then just grip it by the there. You're going to take your ultimate cart, do the same thing, power on, and voila. Except now we got everything that we wanted. So I'm going to test let's do D. Let's do okay, set up for the same thing, and it will be that way until we go over here and press the reset button and then do a reboot. And that gets us here. So I always like to test this just because it's a quick game and it's a quick load. And again, if I reboot, going to dump me to SDX. So I power cycle the machine. Splash screen. Let's do I. Mule. And there you go. Now, this is my SD card. You can find these all over the interwebs. This is just a stock SD. This is nice because it's a Wi-Fi, and so I can access it. I can actually have it turned on and in the machine and access different files. So that's about it. The only thing to keep in mind is that I've got these connected. This is the S-Video, this is the stereo, and this is the composite. That's how I've got it connected. I've got a switch box for the PS2 keyboard and mouse. And then that's about it. It's a very, 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 very powerful machine. I will clean off some of the fingerprints here. I will not leave this installed in your machine. I will wrap it up and make sure that it's nicely set aside. But other than that, it is good to go. If you need a pinout for this, just let me know. I'll send you a pinout configuration. It's set up for stock RGB on a DB9. And I think that's about it. I've got things covered. If you have any questions, just let me know. But I hope that you will enjoy your 1088 XEL. I enjoyed making it. I really think, and I'm pretty sure I've not said this before, but I think this one went, well, I enjoyed making this. It went nice and fluidly, and I hope you enjoy it as much as I enjoyed making it. And we'll talk to you soon.